guys, welcome back for another video. This is a quick little fun project. I'm going to briefly tell you what my original intent was because I need to explain to you why it won't work and what I am going to be able to give you. So I want to measure the relative, and that's very important, the relative volume and clarity of different comms units to each other. I've got the XGP on here. I've got two more budget systems on the way in the mail right now. I've got the SENA 10, 50, 60, Cardo Edge. Unfortunately, my 30 died and I threw it away. My 20s died, I threw them away. So I can't include those now, but anything else that comes in, I'll be able to add to this. I'm going to do a chart just like I did with the dash unit reviews and just give you a kind of overview. But I wanted to do a nice frequency sweep chart so I could give you comparisons not only between the different units, but their different EQ settings, treble boost, bass boost, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, that comparing the sweeps is not possible simply because there is so much digital signal processing that you can't disable in the systems. When I send test tones or sweeps or even pink noise, that is not representative of what they actually sound like or what the EQ settings can even do. In fact, measuring SENA's, all their different EQ settings, they all measure exactly the same. But when you play real sources, real music, you hear the difference. But doing any kind of test sweeps or tones, the DSP is not defeatable and it all comes out the same. So that's no good. However, I do have a standardized track that I can play that has a couple important passages in it. One, to give me a very accurate, repeatable peak volume. So I can give you, relative to each other, only in my tests, how loud each one is to each other. And I can test for distortion. There's a quick passage in the song that will induce distortion repeatedly if the unit is prone to it at max volume. All these tests are going to be at max volume. I have a jigged up system here using my calibrated measurement mic. This is hardware and software that I use for calibrating home theater. It's a 1/2 inch away from the driver, directly at the center. So we're getting a very accurate reading. Note, another reason why the sweeps wouldn't work also, I cannot reproduce bass because below about 100 hertz, this is the XGP chart here, and it actually falls off earlier because it doesn't have a lot of bass compared to SENA or Cardo, but anything below 100 completely falls off because the bass is only able to be reproduced when your ear is actually sealing up against the driver, producing the actual bass tone. But with an open mic here, there is no bass to be measured. It's dissipating into the air. But all I'm really concerned about is the volume and the clarity, lack of distortion, that kind of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and measure everything that I've had. I'll put up a chart and we'll see what we get. And for all the units that do have an app and different EQ settings, they're all going to be measured in their flattest setting. So I'm making one addition to my testing. In addition to the max volume, because most of these have distortion at their max volume, I'm also measuring what the max volume is at its best clean output. So I'm turning them down until there is no distortion, either bass peaks or wideband, which I'm getting in both. And that'll give us a truly usable number. If you want clean sounding music, what's the loudest you can go? Not just what's the loudest you can go and it sounds like crap. I think that'll be a lot more useful for people. Unfortunately, I wish this wasn't the case, but the most expensive one is definitely going to be the winner. I can already tell you that because I've listened to all of these on the road, but the numbers just put it in black and white. So, okay, results are in. I can't quite visualize it yet. I'm going to put it in a chart and let's go over that right now. Okay, so looking at the chart here, there's actually a lot I can pull out of this, but first of all, do not just look at this, go by the numbers and think this one won and that one didn't. There are nuances in this chart. I'm going to go through them here with you. So first of all of these are at whatever their current max firmwares are at the moment. The SENA 60S just got an update. It's not even on their website yet, so I don't know what it did, but I tested both the 1.0.2 and the new 1.0.3, and they were identical volume and quality-wise, so nothing changed there. They have yet to release the firmware for the 60S and 50S to increase volume. That's still coming sometime in the future, and I'll, of course, update this when that happens. But the 60S was the only one with no audible distortion at any volume. So those two bars are the same at 101 dB. Note these are, again, relative only to my testing. This is what they go to. This is not, you're gonna get this in your helmet. This is just relative testing. That's very important. All right, so the other ones all have some level of distortion. The XGP has this huge step. At max volume, it is loud. I mean, if you watched my review, you saw my reaction. It's loud, but horrible crunchy distortion until you just turn it down one click, and then it's this huge step down in volume, and it completely cleans up. It's still quite loud. You can see it's second place, very easily second place. However, tone quality is far below the other ones. There's hardly any bass content. It's clear. Very clear vocals. You're not going to have any problem with navigation prompts or anything like that, but it's not musical. They are not good sounding headphone quality speakers, but it's loud and it's clear. So I have no problem with what it's doing, especially for its price point. So that's there. And there are no options for that. There's no app or anything. It just works. The PackTalk Edge is my bare minimum line for what I would be happy with. I would have no problem. I wouldn't have that and say, wow, I really need to upgrade. Like I was finding myself in last month when I still had the 30K running and I needed to upgrade because I could not hear navigation prompts on the highway with wind noise. It was too low. And you can see by the chart, the 50S is actually the identical performance to what I was having with the 30K. You can see why. It was significantly lower in volume, both clean and dirty. But again, I'll get to that in a second. You can see there's a huge disparage between the clean and the dirty levels. So the PackTalk Edge, and I noted this up in the chart also, you had to turn that down 2 clicks for max volume to get a clean signal. And then it was 94.1 dB. That, again, that's my bare minimum for what I would be satisfied with. Not ecstatic, but I wouldn't need to upgrade. The SMH10, surprisingly, was really loud. 99.2 dB, it beat the PackTalk Edge, and that thing's like 15 years old. However, again, very dirty. Now this one had just almost like the XGP wideband noise, and you had to go 3 clicks down. So you drop way down over 7 dB in volume to get a clean signal out of that. And then it's, again, below the threshold for usable on the highway. And then the 50S, disappointingly, just bottom of the barrel. Again, it's old. It's 1.5 years old. It's not expected to be any kind of class leader, but they are supposed to, again, release a firmware update that's supposed to add 4 dB. However, I doubt it's going to change that clean level at all because it's still using the old speakers and they're just maxed out. You're not going to get any more clean or dynamic output out of them, and certainly you're not going to get any better response. So I have a feeling when the 50S firmware comes out, yeah, it'll boost the max volume and it's also going to boost the distortion. And the distortion on the 50S is big bass hits. Now I will say that the distortion on the 50S is the most listenable and the only one here that you probably aren't going to care much about. You're probably going to be able to run the 50S at max volume, so you're going to actually be hitting 96.3 dB and be happy, but it's not going to be clean. So again, there's stuff to think about and stuff to take out of this chart and combine it with subjective data. But I can tell you right now, if you're buying today and you just want usable, clean sound, you definitely have 3 good choices there. The 60S for absolute max everything. You just want something that works perfectly and gives you the most. Get a 60S and you're done. You don't have to think about it. But man, if you want a stellar bargain, as long as you don't run it at max volume, One down though, that's very nice. I have no problem running that. And the Pack Talk Edge, again, sneaks in bare minimum. The older ones, the 50, the 30, the 20, the 10, I would never suggest anyone get those today, given the better options out there, even though they're cheap. All right, so there you go. As I get more units in, I will add this chart, or add to this chart, and this will be on twowheelobsession.com along with my dash unit chart and all that good stuff. That's it. See you next time.